Welcome to the Sportsways.
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 Sportways African Hockey Summit, and enjoy this fantastic opportunity of sharing of knowledge.
Hey, hello, hi.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing? Good at least to have you here, and thank you for taking time. Let's do a little bit of an introduction about who are in this interview, and let's start with you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here and looking forward to have an exciting summit. So my name is Ahmed Azmy. I am the CEO of the African Hockey Federation, which is the governing body of the sport of hockey in Africa. And I joined the African Hockey Federation early 2017, so almost 3.5 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, tell me what do you need to talk about?
I think that's a good start. We'll get back to the rest later on. My name is Malou Jansen. I'm working for Hockey Dreams Foundation, and we are co-hosting this summit, African Hockey Summit, the very first one. Hopefully to have more in the future, but this is gonna be the big launch in 2020. You mentioned that you're working for the African Hockey Federation for, just over 3 years now. What is your exact role within the organization?
Okay, basically my role is to first manage the day-to-day operations of the federation.
Mm-hmm.
So all communication with executive board members and with external entities like the FIH, the other continental federations, and of course our national associations.
Yeah.
I also overlook and monitor the activities of our committees like athletes committee, competition committee, officials committee, and development committees. So yes, basically the whole management role of the federation.
And that's, I guess, it's a full-time job, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, and of course the basic planning function of our annual calendars and managing our events from bidding to host to launching the event to executing to assessing how the tournament went through, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
Also the management and overseeing the whole concept of our social media, our website, and different media channels. So there are different.
You do it all.
Yeah, different. Yeah.
And maybe could you tell us a little bit of a very small introduction of who else is in the African Hockey Federation? So besides you,
we have also an events and operations officer,
mm-hmm.
who is in charge of being in line, in parallel with every host of every event, making sure that the host is doing the proper sequence of job-related functions before the event and during the event and after the event. Also maintaining our database of African officials and umpires. And
is that a big one?
Yeah, it's getting bigger. Yeah,
it's
getting bigger.
Yeah.
And also, I will talk more later in the interview, if you like, about how we are developing our talents,
mm-hmm.
and also our educators.
Yeah, would love to.
Yeah. Of course, our executive board is spread across the continent. We have 10 members. We have the president, of course, and 2 vice presidents. And some of our executive board members are also committee chairs of our committees.
Yeah. So they bring really good value. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I also I'm glad to say that when I first joined, the age bracket of all the executive board members were a bit on the high side, but throughout the last 2 elections, there are new blood coming in and the more younger generation. So this is also good for for bridging the gap between the old and the new generations.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
So when you started this job, we know that you're a passionate man when it comes to African hockey. So what drivers did you have when you started working for the federation?
Well, first of all, I'm coming from a background of a business background with across different industries, and this shift of career was an interesting shift for me because the sports industry is quite different, but also very interesting to dive into because you have some different types of challenges, and I saw that hockey is underprivileged, underexposed when it comes to not only African as a continent, but also in other continents as well. Hockey is very peculiar. It is a very passionate games for people who are into it, like players, like the families of the players, like the nations who have been now ranked as top 10 or top 20 nations. But when you compare it to other sports like team sports like volleyball, basketball, handball, etc., they are not getting the proper exposure like football. Of course, we all know that football is much bigger all around. So I believe that with the history of hockey in Africa is very old. And some nations were very great and they are having some downturns, and hopefully they are coming back stronger. But with this history, hockey deserves much more of a footprint in Africa and abroad. And
I can only agree with that.
Yeah, this is what we aim to achieve. So this is also in line with the FIH strategy to have a bigger footprint worldwide for hockey as a sport by increasing the followers and fan base, and also when you do that, you can get more value for your sponsors and etc. Then you get bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it's the organic cycle of growing communities then.
And of course, we cannot grow unless we have in parallel growing coaches for growing their players and growing our technical side, which is our officials and umpires who are our arms for managing and making sure we have exciting and properly managed games.
Good plans. So let's talk a bit about the role that the federation has according to you. Let's say that you as the US Federation, but I think with you the NAs and other organizations and like foundations like us, everyone is feeling like we want and we think we can bring African hockey to the next level. So what does the African Hockey Federation have in mind for African hockey in the years to come? So maybe you could explain a bit about short-term plans, but also bigger plans.
Okay. The short-term plans was to have more engagement. By engagement, I mean actually having the hockey players to play hockey. Because some nations in Africa they sometimes have training, but they don't get to the point where they are actually playing actively in different tournaments or actually having games that will take them to the next level in terms of skills. And so this by pushing this engagement principle, we have restructured our tournament structure for the continent, and we have launched a new system whereby teams are going to be qualifying for the World Cup through the African Cup of Nations. And this is based on regional tournaments instead of just having the whole continent as one block and using world ranking or historical ranking for teams to play. So the lower tier, second tier and third tier nations don't have a chance. And for them to reach a higher tier, they need to get engagement. They need to compete. They need to play.
Yeah.
So the new regional tournament system also ensures not only that, but also decreasing the cost of travel, because you have a problem in Africa. Sometimes you need to move from point A to point B, and there is no direct flights for that. So you have to go much further away to to reach your destination, which is very costly.
Yeah.
Also, we have vast distances. It's not like in Europe, like you can just take a bus and go somewhere and play a game and come back in the evening. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this new structure, hopefully, we wanted to test it this year, but unfortunately, with the COVID-19, our regional tournaments have been postponed to the next year. So we are looking forward to see the impact of this, because many nations, I mean, most of our nations will now be able to compete with this regional tournament, and then they will accordingly qualify for the Africa Cup of Nations, which is the qualifying tournament for the World Cup, or in the future for the Olympic Games. So this was a major step.
It is.
The strategy.
Mm-hmm. And then if you think like, or maybe within like 8 to 10 years, so where do you think African hockey can or should be?
Well, African talent in sport in general has proven that they really can excel if they are given the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So, not only in hockey, in football, or in athletics, or in other sports. I think if given the chance, with a proper training and a proper education and good exposure and engagement in games and competing, African players in general have the genetics and the will to excel. So by giving them this opportunity, I believe African hockey can reach a level whereby we would have good teams qualifying for the World Cup or the Olympic Games, but not only qualifying to go and play, but to go and compete.
Mm-hmm.
and show some strong talents. So this is what we are aiming for. Of course, there are different tools to do that. We cannot do it on our own. We are merely coordinator, or we are promoting the sport. We are helping our national associations achieve their plans, but it's up to them to do it on the ground. We are assisting sometimes with donations for the lower tier nations of hockey equipment, for example. We are also assisting them if they have plans to have new turfs, so we can assist them to make the right decisions. It's not always about spending money, it's about making the right decisions for the infrastructure, because it's some technical points. If you do it in the wrong way, you end up throwing your money in the drains. So you have to do the good planning and the correct decisions when it comes to the execution of a new turf.
So would maybe then one of the things, like if you want to dream big, would then a dream be that within the X amount of years that we have at least one pretty good hockey turf in each country? I think that would be a nice.
Yes. Our plan is to have a few turfs across the continent in order to be able to also rotate tournaments. It's not good to have one or two turfs,
exactly.
and then if you have to play internationally, you have to have an FIH certified turf. And if you keep following this rule, then you only go to the same host again and again.
Yeah.
And
in the end, there are of course multiple countries that would love to host.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now also there is a very recent development. We received a recent email about a new turf development, which is can be used by different sports. So if you would like to share with a different sport in a well-organized manner, not in a competing manner, you can group the funding or seek the ministry of sport, for example, or the government in your country in Africa to have this turf, which can be used for hockey and other sports. So this is a good development.
Mm-hmm.
I also know that the FIH had a plan to work with turf manufacturers, to come up or develop turf that requires less water or even no water, because sometimes it's not only costly to have that turf, but it's costly to maintain it and to keep supplying it with water in nations which have a water problem. So this is also in the making. Last but not least, on the development side, we are pushing hard to educate our coaches and officials and umpires and our players who want to go in these pathways. And along that as well, we are developing our African educators to be FIH certified educators so that they can also deliver our own courses.
Yeah. So both qualitative and quantitative dreams, I think, then, right?
Yes.
And then combining in a good way.
Usually as a continental federation, our aim should be to increase the number of national associations. But the way we have decided to go about this is to focus on quality before quantity.
Yeah.
So we have some strong nations, first-tier nations, second-tier nations, third-tier nations. Our job is to close the gap between the African first-tier nations and the top 20 worldwide nations. So we'd like to have 2, 3, 4 nations in Africa who can go and compete in World Cup and compete in Olympic Games and reach higher ranking among the top 20 or top 10. Also, when we develop our second-tier nations, we are closing the gap between our first and second-tier nations.
Yeah.
And this is how we aim to achieve this through this new structure of making sure that all nations can participate. Because you can have so many training sessions, but when you play against an opponent, then this is the real.
Then it's
you are really competing and increasing your skill set. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it makes sense, right? Yeah, because you have a goal to look forward to, and that's the most, I think, the most intrinsic motivation that that people like hockey players and coaches can have, I would say. Mm-hmm.
Also, the idea of this summit is not only to gather good talents. It's also to share experiences and share knowledge from Africa and abroad.
Yeah.
Sometimes even in Africa, the knowledge sharing is within the same country. Sometimes you go in a nearby neighboring country, but now with a global concept, you can reach out to anyone online.
Yes.
And get education and get knowledge and experiences. And this is why I believe this summit is a good nucleus for many editions to come. Yeah, and it gets bigger and bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, because would you also say then that because we've seen it with our coaches that the let's say the for them the urge and then the need and the for knowledge, like hockey knowledge, and both in a personal way or in a technical way, that the need is there. They only sometimes people just don't know where to find it. And like you say, it's you have these neighboring countries where people might be in contact with most of the time. But would you say then that things like this summit and you've from the African Hockey Federation, you've also and the FIH as well have done webinars in the last few months, right? Do you feel like this is then the new way of spreading that knowledge? Because like this, we can reach people that that would normally not be able to gain knowledge that is quite centralized. Like maybe put it like that. Yeah.
Well, let me start by saying that the world after COVID-19 is going to be different, and it's not going to go back to the old system. Mm-hmm. So one of these points is education online, and after 2 months of the pandemic, everyone started talking about that we need to do something about this, and since we are in lockdown, since we cannot play, then we better improve the education level of everyone involved.
Yeah.
Be it players, be it coaches, officials, umpires, administrators, people who run events, so that everybody is up and running, so that when we come back, we are in a better state to move.
It's like an investment, I think. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what happened is that in cooperation with the FIH Academy and also in cooperation with the Asian Hockey Federation, we managed to engage so many people in online courses.
I've seen it, yeah.
It's amazing how people from the 5 continents are sharing the same online experience and exchanging ideas. And somebody asks a question and everybody else is identifying with this question. They had it in mind. So it's a spillover effect that is very nice, and it should continue. Yeah, I believe it will continue.
And it's something, I think it's something special, right? Because if you now mention that you had the Asian Hockey Federation and you have all these people in the same place, because it feels like you're in the same place, although it's a virtual room, it doesn't matter. Normally, it would take a lot of effort and time to put these people in the same place. That would be like a really big international event, tournament to have these people gathered. Now you did it. Yeah, and I think all the webinars that we did with Sportway South Africa as well. It may sound like the easy way, but it's actually a really effective way, I think. Yeah.
You are avoiding all the cost of visa and traveling and lodging, etc. But you are also grouping people in their convenience time. So it's zero cost or minimal cost, but lots of benefits.
Yeah.
So this should really keep going, and I believe it will.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Okay, so let's get back a bit on the African Hockey Federation as a custodian, as an initiator. You mentioned something about the first, second, and third year nations, and would you say then that the focus is, you said about closing those gaps, but is it also then that for the next coming years that there will be less or more focus on specific developing hockey nations or established hockey nations? Is there some kind of plan for that, and what would the reason for them be?
We have 2 parallel plans, so we're going to do both. The established nations, we need them to be stronger, to be able to compete internationally, and the second tier nations, we need to close this gap so for them to catch up in Africa. So for example, I'm sure you are aware of the TAP programs we are doing with the FIH or with other partners. So we started even before I joined with the TAP West Africa, with Ghana as a hub, and this combination of development courses, education, and also development of hockey itself, as in a tournament of hockey fives. And the spillover effect of this was that Ghana and the surrounding nations, they upgraded their skill set. And one of the good outcomes is that the Ghana female national team qualified for the Commonwealth Games. So it proves that if you focus on high performance for a first-tier nation, they can go places. At the same time, the second-tier nations who started to play hockey fives, for example, it was their first time to ever go out of their nation and play somewhere. So this is what we aim for, which is engagement.
Yeah.
And based on this success, we already started a year ago a TAP East Africa, which is a similar program with Kenya as a hub. And this year we are initiating TAP North Africa to also have Egypt as a hub. And this is because the North African nations also share the Arabic language. So this will help also have Arabic-speaking educators who can group these nations and give them the proper education. I didn't understand that. It seems
no worries.
that my mobile is listening.
All right. Okay. We also know about. I think you mentioned already a bit about it. That the FIH and the IOC started projects throughout Africa. Could you please tell us a bit more on how you think African hockey benefited over the last few years?
Well, some African nations are using the help of the Olympic Solidarity projects. And this project is sometimes around education. So it's courses, now could be online courses. And some of them are in different types of the hockey sectors. But the idea is that you have to have a certain set of deliverables, and you have to have a performance appraisal of that you have used these funds or this services or this foreign talent assisting your teams or your national association to reach a certain deliverables. So, and of course, this is a very good tool to help nations who are in a situation whereby they cannot help themselves or they cannot start to have hockey, let's say, flourish in their country. So this is ongoing. We currently have 3 or 4 projects ongoing for Olympics.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, the projects that are currently running, and are there like new projects on the agenda?
Yeah, it depends on the. It's like the Olympic cycle. So every 4 years there is a budget that is being allocated based on projects presentations, and also these projects are competing. So that's coming from all over the world, and the budget has to be distributed according to the viability of the presented application. Yeah. So we are happy that Africa is having a share of that. We are pushing our national associations to initiate their desires and their needs for this assistance, because
and then you can adjust it to the needs and to
you need to want to help yourself. Sometimes the associations, the national association in a country needs to actively seek assistance because they want to assist themselves and they are going to manage this assistance. It's not about getting money, it's about getting assistance. It could be in any form. It could be in educational form, in training form, in upgrading your officials' skills, etc., etc. So being the custodian of the sport in the continent, or being the governing body of the sport, there is a limit for us to push the national associations to seek this assistance. They need to want to seek it themselves.
Yeah.
Because it is a local delivery. It's if you are going to have a high performance coach coming to any country in Africa to assist with the national team, for example, they need to have people who will welcome this person or these people and assist them deliver the program and assess how this was made, and everybody should be engaged. And this was a successful model that happened, for example, in West Africa, and we are replicating. But when the project is initiated by one national association, not a group, then it's up to the national association or federation to be actively, if not proactively, involved and following up on this project.
Yeah, so it also requires a lot of work.
Yeah, we have a few good examples, and I think now Uganda has a project, Kenya has a project, so it's developing nicely.
It's going well, yeah.
we hope to have more of these projects.
Mm-hmm.
And we are working with the IOCs through the FIH to have more projects presented from African nations to be approved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I would like to make a small step towards to the work that we as Hockey Dreams Foundation do, and we met quite a while ago, and
Yes.
you're aware of the programs that that we do. What do you think of the achievements that we had so far? Like, what do you think of the program and the fact that we that we're really focusing on how we like to call it, sport for development. So I think there's a big there's actually a really good link on what you said before, saying we're not focusing on quantity and spreading as much and as quick as we can, but we really want to focus on specific regions, and that's something that we kind of do in the same way in our programs, is that we focus on personal development, and if we invest in people, then they can reach so many others. So what do you think of our program and the way we do this?
Well, your program is a very successful one, and it actually needs to be replicated. And you mentioned personal development. I might add sustainability as well.
Mm-hmm.
The way you are approaching your coaches, helping them, assisting them with their education, and in return helping them with the coaching skills, to deliver coaching to the locals. This is a win-win situation for the personal development of those coaches, as well as the development of hockey in these nations. So,
I think it's exactly what you described before, is that that within a hockey community, people are so extremely hockey minded, and they really live the sport, and that's exactly what we see in our communities, is that once people, it's as simple as giving a person a hockey stick and they will never let it go again. It's actually as simple as that. And we use we use hockey, but it could have been a different sport. It's just the meaning of sport in a program, and what it can lead to. So would you say then, in terms looking at what you see from national associations and what happens in African countries, and looking at, for example, African young talents, would you then say that you think that sports really can change lives? Difficult question, I know.
Speaking of hockey as a peculiar, as a specific sport, and which made me more passionate about joining the African Hockey Federation, is that this concept of a hockey family. The concept of hockey family is not just a word; it is a fact. I witnessed on the ground that hockey people from competing nations are really acting like a family.
Yeah.
They all want to help each other to grow the sport, which is what the sport needs. So it was a closed family. We need to open up the family a little bit, because not only to attract other players from other sports, or to engage people from schools or universities to join the sport, but also to attract fans and followers. There is a concept which is called football fan, or a hockey fan, or an athletics fan, but there is a general sports fan, and these general sports fan need to be more exposed to hockey, to know what is hockey all about, so that they are also watching hockey and following hockey, and then their family members and their children, and they can start looking forward to play this sport.
Mm-hmm.
So again, back to your model or the Hockey Dreams Foundation initiatives, it is very positive, and it needs to be replicated, and an organization like yours is doing a good job in increasing the exposure and developing on the personal level the coaches and the players to increase hockey in general.
Yeah,
So it's very positive and very,
because I think in the end I think it would be one of the right conclusions, not only of this interview, but but of the summit and all the times we talked, that education is really, really, really important if it's education in school, but also education in hockey, and being a coach, being a role model, and in life in general. Then education is key, I would say.
I have seen a comment across social media very recently. I think it was from a player, and he was saying that we always thought that those top-notch coaches are just somewhere far away and we cannot reach them. They are like there on top, and when they are now online talking to us and sharing their experience, we have discovered that they are just nice people who want to give back to the sport. So this far reachable thing is not there anymore. With this across borders sharing talent and sharing ideas is reachable.
Yeah.
And it's very positive. It's high value. Not only for players and coaches. Yesterday I was on a online course for event management. And also a very interesting comment was that a strong nation who has hosted many events, they discovered that they are doing some things by virtue of their own experience. So they are doing the checklist, but they are not doing everything as should be.
Mm-hmm.
Just by getting the education and getting the proper thing from people who are really experienced in event management, what to do before the event in planning, what to do during the event, what to do as a plan B if something wrong happens, and how to evaluate after that, and how to use your event database of information to have a second better event. Sometimes these just vanish and you start from scratch again. So even in administration or in event management on other parts of the hockey world, education can really improve your performance.
Yeah, so I think education and engagement so far are the main topics of this conversation, right? Okay, that's a good conclusion. Looking at addressing African talents, because well, you know it, I know it. I think a lot of other African coaches and players and fans, and they know that there is a lot of talent in Africa, and we also both know that people they feel like, okay, we're so keen just to show our skills, but you already addressed a bit to this before. In the end, it always comes back to funding. How do you have maybe tips for our viewers when it comes to funding and this, which is an issue, and looking at your background as like before joining the federation, would you have tips and tricks for the coaches and players to have a proactively and effectively look for fundings? How can they do that?
First of all, you have to have a positive mental attitude.
Mm-hmm.
some people just have an attitude of, I cannot do this unless I have the funding. I don't have funding. I cannot have funding. So this is the
Yeah,
negative. Yes.
Mhm.
Also, you have to be creative.
Yeah.
Also, you have to work with sometimes partners or competitors to achieve your goal. You also have to look at your own value and try to increase your value to attract. Because what does a sponsor needs or a funding body needs? They need exposure for their service or their brand.
Mhm.
And this exposure will be, if you are carrying their brand, to be seen by hopefully their consumers or future consumers. And this can only achieved if you are presenting something of value. But if you don't look at your own value, like even if you want to have a sponsor that will be exposed on your social media, then you
Mhm.
have to have an active social media, a value enhanced social media that will increase your followers. So then when you have sponsors jumping on this bandwagon, then you are going to deliver value for them.
Yeah.
The same applies for on the ground events. So if you are managing your event well, then people will come and watch your games. If you are trying to introduce an online streaming in order to just move away from very expensive TV broadcast and stuff like this, which is also now available, then you are creating more value to attract funding.
Yeah.
Also, you don't have to always think big from ground zero. You don't have to go to the very big sponsors. You can your local shop can be your sponsor. You have to think out of the box a little bit. Sometimes you can have a few small sponsors rather than a single big one. And also, you can create value in making your event more interesting. Even sometimes, if you go to the big events and you have this arcade on the side, or you have entertainment, or where you are selling food and beverage, or where you are having something that's just value added for people to come in, it's a fun event. It's not just coming there to watch the games. So all these things increase your value that you can, by which attract this required funding. Of course, on the professional side, if you want funding from your government or ministry, or even to have assistance from Olympic Solidarity, for example, you need to be professional. You need to know exactly what you want to achieve, communicate it properly, document it properly. So you need to do your homework in order to be credible enough so that the people who are going to give you this funding will trust that you are going to use it properly and report how this was used and what are the deliverables that you promised to give to them. These
Yeah.
are just some of the
Just some tips and tricks. Yeah.
yes some tips.
Yeah. No, but it's
You know this. I think I said this in a previous interview. The famous, I think it was an Egypt. No, it's a Chinese proverb. I think it's like, give a man a fish, and you will feed him for a day, but teach him how to fish, and then he has this for a lifetime. And this is the concept of education and training. If you just give funding for this year, and then what happens next year?
Yeah.
But if the people who are working and thinking creatively on how to get this funding and how to use it properly and how to generate their own funding afterwards, then it becomes self-sustainable, and then you have followers, and then you go into this nice circle that's increasing, that's getting bigger.
All right.
Back
Thanks.
to positive mental attitude. Yeah.
I like it.
Okay.
And about the African talent that we just addressed too. Do you think the hockey world would or should be surprised of the talent that there is in the African countries?
Yes. my quick answer is yes.
Yes. Why?
Because African talents have proven that they are surprising the world on so many fronts. In the sports world, if you look at African players who are being headhunted from top-notch teams all over the world.
Yeah.
So if you are given the right infrastructure, the right training, the right conditions, just from the fact that people are following or looking at you, because there are so many talents worldwide that they are not discovered. But if you are having the right people who are sourcing and looking for these talents and nurturing this talent, then the sky's the limit. And since we are talking about a team sport, so it's not only about a single talent, it's about how the coaching plays a role in discovering this talent and putting the talent in the right place in the formula, in the team.
Yeah, and
So-
I think also the talent of coaches, because it's not only the players that can reach like high performance, high level international hockey
coaching-
levels, but in coaching and in umpiring as well, of course. Yeah.
Well, umpiring and officiating is more related to applying the rules and being flexible enough in how to apply the rule, or what we call the essence of the rule. But when it comes to coaching, coaching is partially talent and partially education and partially experience and partially knowing that there is no end in your learning. Every game is a new opportunity to learn. So you'll never stop learning. And exchanging ideas like this summit, or attending these coaching courses, it's a never-ending story. There is no end in sight. So it's about your attitude as a coach, that you have to know and believe that you will always keep learning every day. And you have changing experiences with different players coming in, players coming out, how to use those players effectively in this coming tournament or in this coming match. We have seen so many examples of coaches who are using the skill set of their team members, who is not up to the standard or is not high performance, but they manage to win certain game because of a good study of the competition and efficient use of the teams with a plan for this specific match. So this is a combination of skills, education, and talent, and it's very interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's and it's also about managing that team. Then in the end, it's not like you say, it's making
It's an easy job.
It's
not an easy job.
No, it's not easy. No. No,
You
true.
need to have a balance between being loved by your team players, but at the same time have the strength to enforce your requests or your needs, and how to work under pressure, and how to be. You have to have different hats. You have to have, as a coach, you have to be sometimes a parent, sometimes a teacher, sometimes a counselor, sometimes a coach,
A friend.
sometimes as a friend. Yeah. So, but I'm sure that if you do this properly, it's it's a very fulfilling experience. Yeah.
Yeah, we see this with the Hockey Dreams coaches as well a lot. That it's, we like to say that they've become a role model within their community, because it's so much more than being on a pitch and teaching hockey techniques and skills and doing trainings. I mean, it's much more than that. I mean, it's and I mean, in the end, it's the same in every country, that you can compare it to any kind of hockey club that there is on a European level. You talk to the coach after training about school, about your family, about plans what you have for the year, things that you feel good about, things that you don't feel good about. So yeah, I think I think being a coach is it's a hard job.
But what you just described is back to the hockey family
Yeah.
concept. So it is self-fulfilling, and it's a very interesting job. And your coaches, when you're talking about the Hockey Dreams Foundation and the African coaches,
Mhm.
I think this feeling they have of being appreciated and self-developing in the community. This is a very strong motivational driver for them.
Yeah.
It what keeps them going. So on the high end, coaches might be looking for winning teams or better income, etc. This is fine, but this self-fulfilling achievement feeling is a very strong motivation. It's a very good driver for
Yeah, and
moving
I
forward and pushing
think,
harder.
yeah, I agree, and I think it helps. Well, not only our coaches, but it just helps people in life um, because I think if you manage to be a good coach, then even within your job or within a lot of other different aspects of your life, you can relate to the skills and to the things that you've learned on being a coach. So for example, just be in front of a group of people and talk to them in a way that they all understand. It sounds simple, but it's not. Or make sure that people and players are playing with respect when they are on the pitch. Things like that you because the sport itself and the technical aspect of it is great, but the other side, I think, is as important as the hockey technical side, I would say.
If I might compare the coach on the pitch like a teacher in a classroom,
Mm-hmm.
it's about giving your knowledge, giving your experience to have the best come out of these students, of these players.
Yeah.
So sometimes, in order to get the best of them, you need each player to follow their own learning curve. Sometimes they are on different parts of the curve, but at the end, they reach their maximum potential.
Yeah.
So this is where the art part comes in. But it is self-fulfilling, because when you are happy to give information and see the fruit of your teaching or your coaching, then this is a very self-fulfilling feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a self-fulfilling job to be a coach. And it's very interesting to see that the summit has a group of versatile backgrounds and from Africa and abroad, and sharing knowledge for the benefit of our coaches and coaches worldwide will be very interesting. And I hope this creates a spillover effect whereby this is going to be the first edition of an annual event. And this is why the African Hockey Federation, after review of this, we have decided to co-host and endorse this summit.
Yeah, which we very much appreciate. Obviously. Okay. Let's see, what else do I have? Yeah, I wanted to speak a bit on because we all know it's super difficult to plan even a week ahead due to the current situation in the entire world. But just for let's think positively. And the African Hockey Federation already shared some new roadmaps for the events that will be taking place. We just talked a bit about the new structure, etc. What can you say, and what can you not say about about things that are planned for 2021? There are some things scheduled for in South Africa, I believe, for the FIH Junior World Cup. What's going to happen? What do you think?
First of all, when the coronavirus started to surface and create the problem with the pandemic, we already had in plan for this year 6 major events. And with our revised roadmap, 4 of these events were shifted to next year.
Yeah.
Our 3 regional events, because the Africa Cup of Nations, which is scheduled originally in August, will shift 2 months ahead because next August is going to be the Olympics in Tokyo, hopefully. And because it's at the end of the year, then we could have the flexibility to shift our regional tournaments to the first quarter of 2021. Also, we have the Junior Africa Cup, which is the qualifier for the Junior World Cup. We also shifted this to next March. This is in Ghana. But the two events which are still planned for this year is the Indoor Africa Cup and the ACCC, the Africa Cup for Club Champions. The Africa Cup for Club Champions is usually every year in December. So we hope that by December this will be going smoothly. Hopefully, if nothing surprises us with the COVID-19. But back to the to the Indoor Africa Cup. The problem with the Indoor Africa Cup is that there is a deadline to announce the qualified teams for the Indoor World Cup, because the Indoor World Cup is scheduled for early Feb next year in Liège, in Belgium. And based on the calendar and the FIH requirements, as well as the needs of the host, then these teams have to be announced with a certain deadline. Our original plan for the Indoor Africa Cup was in June, July, and we shifted this to September, end of September, the last weekend of September.
Yeah.
And this is currently taking place in Durban, South Africa. Competing teams, the typical competing teams are South Africa and Namibia. And if this does not take place, then the rule is that the FIH is going to use the indoor world rankings for the qualification for the World Cup. And the current ranking is that the men's team of South Africa and the women's team of Namibia qualify for the indoor World Cup. But our plan and our aim is for this tournament to take place because we want, again, engagement, participation, competition to take place so that the African representative is going to go to the World Cup after a fresh competition. And this is what we hope to achieve.
Yeah, so if it's possible, then for sure it's taking place.
Yes. And the last decision from the FIH is that this deadline is needed. We cannot surpass it. And also the World Cup is fixed in February. There is no news of any postponement or any cancellation. If something new happens, then it will be something new that we have to deal with at the time. And not only African Hockey Federation, but also the 5 continents have to alter their plan accordingly. Yeah.
All right. Okay, let's get to a bit about the summit before we get almost to the end of the interview. We already addressed it a bit about the impact and about the importance of why we think this summit should take place in the first case. And I know how we started talking, but could you tell people who are viewing this, could you tell them a bit about how all the partners came together for this project, like what took place, and why is it so important for the African Hockey Federation to participate in it?
As I emphasized before, our big aim is for hockey to get bigger as a sport.
Yeah.
This is the big strategy of the FIH in terms of participation, engagement, followers, fan base, etc. On the African level, we need to be part of this, and we cannot do this alone. And national associations have to come together to share the knowledge and increase the engagement and the affinity of players or sports people to get into hockey, and in parallel improve the quality of our coaching education and coaches skill set, and in parallel improve the capabilities and knowledge and exposure of our African officials and umpires and administrators. So all these grouped together will allow us to get to the next level. And when we were approached first by Sportways and your organization, Hockey Dreams Foundation, together we were approached to get the endorsement of the African Hockey Federation. And after review of the vision of this plan and how coaching and the players will be engaged with the power of the social media as well, and in conjunction with what's happening now with the COVID-19, we, in presenting this summit to our executive board, we decided that this is a very promising project for us to endorse and co-host, and hence we are
and hence you're here.
Yeah, we are here. We are here together. Yes.
Yes. Do you feel like there are also like different initiatives taking place besides the summit that or are on the agenda for taking place? Maybe not from our side or from your side. That you feel like mentioning? That is there any I don't know, like project taking place that you feel like mentioning? That's on the agenda. It doesn't have to do with the summit, but
we are in as I said, in addition to the focus during this last period on the online education pathways, we are also looking forward to have our own African hockey educational online courses. And we started this plan by ensuring that all our African educators have renewed their licenses. And also we are looking forward to increase the number of educators we have in Africa. So this is one plan we have. Also, as I mentioned before, our TAP or Targeted Assistance Program initiatives, we are focusing on completing the puzzle and having all parts of Africa engaged. And this will be good in parallel to our new structure of regional competitions. So we are always combining when there is a real tournament. At the same time, we have the courses running along, and sometimes we have a hockey fives tournament at the same time. So the noise we create in the venue or in the host city becomes having a bigger impact.
Yeah, it's a boost for each other then. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Hockey needs this exposure to get bigger in the mindset or in the minds of general hockey fans, general sports fans, and followers of other sports. And also some of the recent developments that's interesting to mention. As I said, the technical developments on hockey turfs that can use less water or that can be shared with other sports. Also, a new deal which was made by the FIH to engage a new platform whereby is going to be the home for hockey. So all the hockey matches and hockey streaming can be grouped under one online umbrella. And this is a good news because African hockey has a lower exposure and a lower experience in terms of getting engaged with high costly TV broadcast deals, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So this is going to be not only good for us, but for any nation worldwide to gain more exposure and more showing of the matches and the skills of their teams to anyone on the globe who has internet access from a mobile phone.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be a major boost for exposure of hockey worldwide.
Interesting. We would love to be updated about it.
Yeah, we used to have, I mean, people used to, as I said again, people who are very into hockey, they used to go on the TMS, which is the management system of the FIH, on the FIH website, and they follow the match results. But people now are, consumers now are more demanding.
Yeah, they're
And
hungry.
they are hungry for the easiest way to follow their sport. Even sometimes people watch only bits and pieces of a match. It's they call it snacking on the match. So if you manage to deliver this to them on any platform,
Then we're doing a good job.
yes. So we are looking forward to get hooked and engaged on this new platform.
Yeah.
Is the deal? The company is called Nagra, and this is a new deal with the FIH, and it's going to be the hub for hockey. So anything related to hockey, watching hockey, then you will go there. It's an online platform. So this is also a new development to follow.
We will. All right. I think from my side, I have pretty much all the information and the answers that I was looking for. Is there anything that you would like to address to something that you're hoping that if people have watched, maybe if they even watched one or two videos, if maybe if they've watched all of them, what would you like them to take home?
Well, for players who want to be coaches, or for coaches who want to improve themselves, I wish them all the best in terms of sharing knowledge and consuming knowledge from those 3 days. Also, people should get positively engaged and ask questions that maybe could be answered later by the speakers on the summit. So I think this is also a tip for the organization or after the summit.
Yeah. We will let
and
people
get
know about
recommendations.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, because even though it's a one-way communication, you can find a way to make it two-way communication and use knowledge for the future editions. Yeah.
So what we would tell people after watching each interview, that there will be the possibility to go to the Scored platform, where there is exactly the feature that you're now addressing to, that people are able to speak to each other about different topics, asking questions. Yeah, so that's completely arranged.
The best thing that if there is one message, is that the top-notch coaches are there to give back to hockey, to the hockey family, knowledge and experience, so that they could overall together in partnership increase the value of hockey worldwide. I think this is the aim of such a summit in terms of where coaching is involved.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ahmed, for your time again, and for your attribution in this way to give us some insight about plans, ideas, dreams, ideas, about tips and tricks and all of that. So thanks for your time, I would like to say.
Thank you, Margot, for your time as well. It was a very interesting interview, and I look forward to the other interviews because some of the speakers are very remarkable personalities in their field.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to a very rich and value-added 3-day event.
You've blocked your entire agenda already, right?
Okay.
I'm gonna watch them all.
Looking forward. Looking forward.
Good. All right.